What is up, everybody? Welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. Happy Friday. I am Robbie, and I got my buddy Rex with me because it's the Rex and Robbie show. What is up, Rex?
What's up, Robbie? What's going on, bud?
Not much. Just chilling, enjoying the day, and went for a walk. It's a beautiful day in
It
the
is actually
yeah.
here too.
It's a beautiful day here. So I went for a walk, came back, and I read this new Alex Ross book, The Fantastic Four: Full Circle, which is very appropriate because I knew what we were going to be talking about, and it got me excited because today we're talking about the Fantastic Four and how to make a good movie, because they've made some Fantastic Four movies before. Generally speaking, they
question. You've asked the eternal question.
Yeah.
One of those, chicken before the egg. How do you make a Fantastic Four movie that doesn't suck?
Yes,
those are two of the eternal questions in the universe. And after you emailed me the topic of the day, I did a little research and I found out some interesting factoids I did not know.
Okay.
So I think that I remember the Roger Corman debacle, Fantastic Four, and the bad special effects, the low budget. I did not, and we all said, why did they do this? So I think I found the answer to that at least.
Well, that was like a rights issue, wasn't it? Something like that.
Right. They did. If they didn't make that really, really low budget, lousy Corman movie, they were going to lose the rights. And then the last Fantastic Four movie, okay, the reboot, was done for the same reason. Okay, albeit much larger budget, much bigger stars, but obviously, as we all know, that didn't work very well either.
Yeah.
With the FF fans out in the universe. So, but I actually did not know that. I just thought, that they didn't have the budget or whatever, and nobody wanted to support it, and then they hired Corman, Battle Beyond the Stars fame. Yep. And put this bad boy together, and
he did it for like $1 million. He did it for like $1 million, I think.
Yes, I think that was the budget. Which in this day and age, I mean, my God, it's laughable. A budget of $1 million. Hey, Digital, what's going on, man?
Yeah, what's up?
So yeah, it was interesting little factoid. So your topics always force me to do some research, and the research I really end up always learning something I didn't know. So, but I don't know. Here you go. Okay. Even after the research, you're trying to, answer a question that is the eternal question. I mean, I don't know well, we know why the Corman one was as bad as it was, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay. Low budget, the era that it was made in, special effects were not what they are today, obviously. You didn't have the, computer generated graphics and stuff like that. So it was tough. So they had a lot of challenges and a very low budget, as you said, $1 million, which is laughable.
Have you seen that movie, Rex?
Oh, I have. Actually, the first time I saw it was a very bad pirated version on VCR, VHS rather.
Yeah, me too, man. It's so insane how bad the movie is. Like Johnny. Well, I was going to say, like, when Johnny becomes the Human Torch, like, that doesn't happen till the end of the film because, like, the way he finds out he gets his powers, y'all, if you've never seen this, is he sneezes and a bush lights a flame like 10 feet from him. And he's like, I'm a Human Torch. And then when he does flame on at the end, it's like just animated like on the cell or something. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's so
right. Well, worse than that, the first time I saw it, it was on obviously a pirated, because it was never released, pirated VHS tape, which clearly had been copied about 1.5 million times. So the quality of the tape itself was brutal. Okay, back in the VHS days, you get that and whatever, and it wasn't the tape itself. It's just however many times they were recording over it. It just lost its quality and integrity.
Yeah.
And so I'm watching this horribly made movie with horrible special effects, and it's not even clear. So I remember I still watched it, obviously, but I was like, wow, that was truly, truly bad.
Yeah. I first watched it on a VHS that a buddy of mine had, and it was like a copy of a copy of a copy and all that stuff. Because I think one of the things you would always find at cons back in the 90s and early 2000s was people selling things like the Justice League pilot and the Fantastic Four movie and things like that, right? And then eventually I had it on somebody burned it for me on a CD, right? But it was like 2 CDs. So like you put one CD in your computer and it would play the first half of the movie, and then you'd have to change the CD. It was ridiculous. I think I still have that somewhere. That movie's wild. So here's something then. In all of these Fantastic Four movies that have come out already, there's been 4 of them. There's the 2 Tony Story ones, and then there's the Josh Trank one, there's the Roger Corman one. Have any of them done anything right that we could learn from, Rax?
I don't know. Okay, so I think really the popularity of the Corman one was just because it was so bad and whatever. And I think that you know, they made a very small budget. They made their best efforts, and it is what it is, right? So there's a nostalgia feeling tied to that movie. The next 2, I think that the first one tried to introduce obviously the characters and so on and so forth, and it was you know, I think the problem was Doom. You know, the Doom character. They really tried to, and I in this article, it was a really good example. They tried to make Doom into Norman Osborn from Spider-Man. Okay, it was pretty much the same character. You know, losing their minds or whatever. And is that really the Doom that we remember from the comics? No, not really. You know, he was an evil genius, but he wasn't crazy. You know, and they kind of turned him into that. And so I think that kind of got lost a little bit.
Well, they also put in the whole bit where he was jealous of Reed because he was in love with Sue, and I hated that.
That was kind of like very kind of unnecessary to create that 3-way love thing, you know, with Sue Storm. I just, you know, was that really necessary? No, I didn't think so. Right. Obviously, the special effects made Reed's stretching look kind of, you know, it wasn't there yet. Right. It just looked kind of goofy.
Yeah, and I will tell you this, man. I think one of the things the Corman film got right was that Thing suit, especially for its time. Now, the Thing suit in the 2 first Fox movies, it's fine, and I think I'm glad they went with that way over CG for that time. Right. But I think the Corman one kind of looks better. I don't know; it's a little weird. It doesn't move as well, but
yeah, I guess. I mean, you know, whenever you use a suit, it's a suit. You know, I mean, it is what it is. You know, not everybody's going to be Lou Ferrigno and the Hulk and stuff, you know. But the second one with Silver Surfer, I thought that one was probably the best of the grouping. They kind of almost got there, but then they really kind of screwed up with Galactus.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Galactus was a cloud. Come on, dude. You know, that's not the way that works, right? So I think they kind of really missed the mark there. But I thought it was interesting, the interaction between Silver Surfer and Sue, and it was better. It was definitely better than the first one, in my opinion. The last one was just horrendous, dude. Just, you tried to do too much. You change. You're already struggling with this franchise, and then you try to, you know, and I've got nothing wrong with being current, but you're essentially changing the characters again. You know, they're not who they're supposed to be anymore, and you're already struggling trying to, and maybe they thought that kind of hard left turn, a hard shift was going to revitalize it, but it didn't. You know, it was probably the worst of, in my opinion, the worst of the grouping, even Corman. You know, Corman had that kind of, I don't know, nostalgia, like, it was crappy, and it was.
And you're expecting a B level or below movie when you're watching Corman.
Yes. And they didn't release it. Okay. On top of that, right? So what we were seeing was pirated versions that we were not supposed to see anyway.
Yeah.
So I think that it has kind of a nostalgic kind of, you know, hey, this is when you didn't have really good superhero movies, and we all wanted them to try it, and they did, and we said, what could go wrong? And, you know, that's an example of, well, this could go wrong. It could go real wrong, it could go off the rails wrong. But this last one, you had the budget, you had the technology, and it just sucked. It just really, really sucked. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. It was boring. The screenplay was boring. You know, the whole thing was just so lackluster. Who played Torch in that one? What's his name?
It was Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah, Michael B. Jordan, whom we know is a phenomenal actor, and he couldn't make it work. You know, because he's given a screenplay and it sucks. You know, he's probably thinking, "Oh my God, what did I get myself into?"
There was a
Black Panther.
Well, yeah, but there was a lot of stuff going on with that last movie. Like Josh Trank had an idea. You know, he was coming off the success of Chronicle, right? Which I still haven't seen, but that movie, that's what got him the Fantastic Four gig. And then like, there's all this stuff it's really crazy. First of all, the original script, the idea behind it involved Galactus and Mole Man and Doom, and it was big, and it was like, it had that fantastic all factor possibility imprinted within it. But then they shrunk it down, and he wanted to go like a very grounded body horror, hard sci-fi thing. And you can kind of feel that vibe in the beginning of the movie. Right. It's very much like the Ultimate Fantastic Four with their kids at the Baxter Foundation. And I was thinking they were doing some good character work at first, and I was liking the pace of it. And then Josh Trank apparently goes off the rails, loses his mind, starts feuding with the studio and the producers and everything, eventually locks himself up in his trailer, trashes it or something. He gets moved off the picture, and the producer, now the studio's reacting to Avengers, which had just released and became a huge success. So then they redo the third act and try to do this big like Avengers thing. And it just, you can tell in the movie where it goes from this like trying to be a grounded thing to all of a sudden just a mess of trying to copy Avengers.
Hey, Sheldon, what's going on, buddy? Cerebro's in the house as well. Thanks for joining us in the middle of the day here, guys. I remember reading about that, the studio meddling or him going off the rails, whichever happened. But it was clear that it was not one vision. It was part of a vision and then part of another vision, right? So that really hurt the movie, obviously, as well. And then the information started coming out about all of that even before the movie premiered. So already your expectations, and everybody's already kind of got so Sheldon says MCU should have saved Namor and the Watch for FF content versus how they use it so far. I would agree with that. And then you could see that already people had a preconceived notion it was not going to be very good, and became, to a certain extent, I think, a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Once you go to a movie, I heard this one sucks, and then you're waiting for it to suck. So I think that worked against it as well. So what do you do to try and, so Sheldon, I see his suggestion, but so do you try to go a road where you incorporate them into the MCU? Do you try to make a independent film that's going to work first? I don't know. Now, John, hey, John Spilios, what's up, brother?
Spilios, what's up?
So the one thing that John Cole, who's with us on Monday nights, I think we kind of touched on this topic before, and I think he had a really good idea. If you really want to make this work, go back to when FF first appeared, in what was it, 1961?
Yeah. And
the movie should be timed in that era, in 1961, and see how that works. Okay? Because I think that might be better. And then how do you work in an MCU? My God. I mean, after Doctor Strange, you can just make it work any way you want, really. Right?
Yeah. Well, I've always had the idea that obviously they're not going to get belted by cosmic radiation going to the moon, like in the original 1961 comic, right? We've been to the moon. We've sent probes out, into past Pluto now. So like that's not going to work. The negative zone works. They go into the negative zone. They can encounter energy that changes them, gives them their powers. When they come back from the negative zone, it's modern day. You could do that.
I don't think the origin part has ever really been a problem. You can work around that. We've seen it work before. Marcus, what's up, bud? We've seen how you work around that to alter, to fit more, what's happening. But okay. Hey, Brandon, what's going on? It worked for X-Men First Class. It did, but again, I don't think the origin problem was really the problem.
Do you think they should do an origin for the Fantastic Four movie?
I don't know. Okay. I don't know. I mean, you got to appeal to a general audience, and it's worked for so many different, almost every MCU, standalone film has had an origin in it. Even though, those of us that are comic book readers, we know what the origin is, and then we make comparisons if they alter it. But for those that are just general movie viewers, and that's why there was the success of Iron Man, of Captain America, and then eventually, rolling into Avengers, was in order to bring them in to watch the movie, you've got to have an origin story, right? But I don't feel that the origin story is kind of where they went wrong. It's everything else, that's sort of happened. Again, we talked about Corman, and obviously why that was bad was just, there's so many reasons, and why it's managed to sustain itself is because of how bad it was, and the kind of campiness of it, and the low budget, and we couldn't, it was never released, so we're all watching pirated versions. We were so desperate for any kind of superhero movie. So that's always going to be in our minds in that sense. The first one, I don't know, man. The first one was, as you said, you really don't need Dr. Doom and Reed Richards having this quote unquote rivalry. Okay. It didn't really need to exist. Okay. And it seemed kind of goofy. Okay.
Not in the way that they portrayed it. Yeah, for sure.
Right.
And Doom shouldn't be Doom's not Lex Luthor. He's not like a corporate mogul and like greedy for money and things like that. That's not Dr. Doom. He's not out robbing banks and robbing stockbrokers and shit. You know what I'm saying? He's regal. He's the king of a country. He's a sorcerer, and he's a brilliant mind, and he wants to actually save things and do things the right way, but with an iron fist, right? So
yeah, exactly. It felt so canned. The whole let's create a love triangle, and create jealousy, and then the men compete for the hand of Sue Storm. It's like, dude, that's every rom-com we've seen on the face of the earth. Okay, if you wanted to see a rom-com, you go with your wife or your girlfriend and watch a rom-com, fall asleep halfway through with your hand in the popcorn.
Well, that's always, it was a misconception too, where they were like, well, women are not going to want to watch these kind of movies, so we got to put something in there for women. Yeah, well, we have proven that women love watching superhero fantasy. Women love all movies. Yeah.
They want a rom-com. They want Sex in the City. That's what they're going to go watch. But they don't, we're going to drag them into the theaters to watch the Fantastic Four. No, stay in your lane here, guys. So I thought that was real kind of sideways. It just didn't make any real sense why we need to do that. The second one with Silver Surfer, I thought was better. Okay. You incorporated a character that had a lot of depth. Obviously connection with Sue Storm. Okay. I thought that was good. But then you had the whole wedding thing. Was that really necessary? Did we really need to go through so much of the film with the wedding and the rooftop and everything happening? I mean, it was again kind of like the same thing as the first one. Oh, how do we attract the female viewers? And we'll have a wedding, and we'll focus a lot on the wedding planning and how Reed is being the typical man and not paying attention because he's busy doing serious scientific stuff. Why? The scene on the roof, the battle scene on the roof was pretty cool. But I mean, other than that, we could have finished that in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
We didn't.
I like that they put in the wedding because it showed their celebrity status, and it that was a big moment in the Fantastic Four.
I mean, I thought it took too long. You could have wrapped all that up in like a 10-minute segment, if even that. It felt like I'm watching Fantastic Four say yes to the dress. It's like, look, I don't want to see Sue Storm doing all this wedding planning and getting PO'd at Reed because he's not paying attention to it, and then Reed lying, and it just is. Marcus, you got to stop drinking, my man. That's why you don't remember any of this. Chris Cowgill, that's a point other people have brought up, but the powers are so strange and bizarre that they definitely need some sort of origin story at least alluded to. I don't agree. I don't disagree with that. But some people said, well, they have all these varying powers. Look, they made it work on Avengers. They made it work on a lot of films. So I don't really think that's the problem. I just hope that, I think Marcus mentioned earlier, and John Cole's mentioned, you make it a period piece in the 60s. Okay. I think that has an allure all of its own. Look at Mad Men and how that worked. You got 1960s vehicles, life in the 1960s, kind of looking back, as a backdrop to the FF. Yeah. No, maybe not cosmic rays, but obviously that's the beginning of space flight, and you can incorporate that into it. And then, that's how they get their powers. And, there's so much that you could do with it. You don't have to really deal with the MCU yet. Okay. And I think somebody said, Ant-Man goes back and drags them back if you want to incorporate them into the MCU. And then that opens up a whole kind of story storyline, them adjusting, kind of like Captain America adjusting to, which I always thought they didn't really deal with very much, adjusting to life in a different time, kind of thing. I think there's so much that you could do with that. I don't focus on this Sue Storm, Reed Richards love story. It's not necessary. Okay. A fleeting glance, a touching of hands. Okay. Then we're done. Okay. Or it's like by the end of the movie, Reed super attentive to Sue, whatever. And then at the end of the movie, they discover, oh yeah, Reed loves Sue, but that's it. Okay. We don't need the rest of this crap around it. Okay. Incorporate the characters from FF. I think that's got a better shot than anything else. I don't know. I really don't know what they can do.
Okay. Well, so what for me, and I'm a huge Fantastic Four fan. Like, I've been collecting Fantastic Four since I was a kid. It's the most complete run in my collection. I have the only key issues I have are Fantastic Four keys and stuff. I love and adore the Fantastic Four. And I cannot recommend this Alex Ross book enough. It is beautiful. It is gorgeous. I plan on doing a review soon, but it's just incredibly well made. The artwork is great. It's got like the coloring in it is very like pop art. And there's always so much going on. It's beautiful. It is absolutely gorgeous. There's some stuff that is set like in a black light world. Look at that. Wow. Look at those colors, man. This book is fantastic. It is really good. And looking at the Fantastic Four movies of the past, what have they gotten right? At times they get the look of the characters right. So that's important. Yes. So Marvel just needs to focus and make sure that they kind of get that right.
And then, I think technology is to the point where that's not going to be a big, huge problem.
Yeah, I don't think it should be too big of a deal. And we're going to get a CG thing, and I think that they should be able to deliver it. We'll see. As long as he ain't wearing clothes, he might look fine. MCU has problems doing clothes right now digitally. Watch She-Hulk and Moon Knight. Anyway, the other thing is at times they get the characters and the character dynamics right. Like in the first Tony story, Fantastic Four, I think they nailed the dynamic between Ben and Johnny. Like the way that they were always fighting and entertaining. That was good in that first one.
Yeah, that was very entertaining.
You got to have that because MCU loves their comedy and their little bits and their quips. There you go. Ben and Johnny. Done. You got it. I like the way they did Reed and Sue in the second one, actually, focusing a little bit more on them and their dynamic. But yeah, don't do it so sappy. Don't do it so Sex in the City. Like, do it in a very natural and organic way. And then I thought the best Doom we got was also in Rise of the Silver Surfer because he was kind of over that love story thing. And he was just like, I hate you. I'm here to steal the Surfer's powers and I'm going to use you guys to do it. And then I'm going to like try to kill you. So it was better, but it wasn't good. Right. So they got to get Dr. Doom right. That's essential. They got to get those character dynamics right. Right. That's important. Silver Surfer was great too. One of the things, and the Josh Trank one, the thing that I think worked in that one at times was that they were going for some really cool high concept sci-fi at times. I think that's important too, right? So you take all these things and I think you combine it with the one thing that no Fantastic Four movie has ever delivered, which I think is one of the most important things about the Fantastic Four and why I love them. You have to bring a sense of wonder, spectacle, and adventure. These need to feel like every good Fantastic Four story, and this Alex Ross one is a perfect example of it. It's an adventure. Something happens, some curiosity, somebody shows up, there's some mystery to solve, and Reed and the Four, they go after it, and they go through a series of adventures, and it just gets wild. And their personalities and the way they care about each other, but also the way they can bicker with each other, and the way they, like a family, like friends, it works. And that's what you need. It needs to be adventurous. It needs to feel, I'm not saying they need to rip off Indiana Jones or Stephen Sommers' Mummy films, but that kind of sense, like when you watch that, it feels fun watching them go from conflict to conflict, just jumping, and just that's what I think we need. I think that's what would just bring it all together nicely. I just hope they can do it.
So Digital says it's rumored that Seth Rogen is supposed to play this thing in the MCU. My God, I hope that's a rumor.
At least the only thing with that is it would be just mostly a voice. At least there's that. I don't know.
I he's not the right cast for that. I just don't see it. But I mean, the big winner out of those two movies is probably Chris Evans. All right, because we got to see his acting chops, because he went from this brash, irresponsible Johnny Storm, okay, to becoming Steve Rogers, the pillar of all that's right and good and everything else. So we got to see his ability to act. So that's a good thing. All right, for Chris Evans. Everybody else, not so good. Okay. So I agree with you there, and I'm really kind of believing the period piece idea is the way to go, mainly because it allows you to develop the characters. I think that seeing the world in 1960s is going to have its own appeal to a lot of people, and it gives you a big canvas to tell your story, because you don't have the rest of the MCU littering in. Okay, now, again, I forget who suggested it. You have Ant-Man pull him out, whatever. Yes, that could work for something later. But you have to establish this first. And, you've had 4 shots at it. Well, really 3 shots at it. We can't count the Corman one. That was just an attempt to save the license. You've had 3 attempts at it. You need, you really kind of need to get it right. And maybe, I don't know, maybe incorporating Namor is the way to do it. Okay, because obviously it's not a problem for Namor. He can be alive all that time and still appear in the MCU. Maybe, there's interaction if they do pull him, into the future, into the MCU. That would be an interesting kind of interaction between the FF and Namor. I can see a lot of things there, but it's just, I don't know, man. They keep the last one. It kind of self-destructed on its own, because of the issues with, the studios and everything kind of crashing together. So I don't think it really ever got a fair shot to make it work. But, the first 2, they are what they are.
And they're kind of the pale imitations of they're kind of like the average generic what a superhero movie was at that time.
Yes.
Like we had the rise of X-Men and Spider-Man, right after Blade, but Spider-Man kind of set a tone that I felt was very similar to the Superman movie, the Richard Donner Superman movie with Christopher Reeve, right?
Yes.
And then you had all these kind of just those aughts superhero movies all kind of have the same vibe. We're talking about like Daredevil and Hulk and Elektra and Catwoman. They weren't there was a bad time, I think.
Yeah, it was.
The imitators, but not really knowing that you needed certain things to really make it work. And luckily we had Iron Man kind of reignited where we, and now now there's so much content that it's not all going to work for every single person. And so now we're in a world, now we're in a world where like, oh, I don't like this one. And people are like, well, just be thankful we have we should be thankful. We can still be critical of like a She-Hulk or a Moon Knight or a Thor or whatever, and still love superhero movies, right? Because and I love being in the world where we have so many, because there was that time where all we had was just these duds. And I was like, well, this is the best Fantastic Four movie I'm going to get.
Well, you know what? I think that Eddie Murphy, during one of his acts years ago, if you're starving, that saltine cracker is going to taste like the best thing ever. Okay. So you're going to be less critical. But if you have access to a full buffet, you're going to be picky and choosy. And we've gone from a time, we can go back to Corman and say that was the saltine cracker, to now you've got a full 8-course buffet laid out for you. Okay. So there is some stuff you're going to be, I thought it was a little too salty, or I thought it was a little too sweet. But did you eat it? Yeah, you ate it. Okay. So we're still consuming it, and that's fine. But what can they do to kind of fix it? I don't know. Marcus says you can also have an older Black Panther from the past in FF. You could, I guess. Yeah. I mean,
one thing I'm worried is we know that they're putting Namor in Black Panther 2, and we know that Doom is rumored to be popping in very soon. I am worried that Doom and Namor, who are like Fantastic Four villains, right? And they work so well. I'm worried that they're going to be used for like a larger scale thing and not just for Fantastic Four. I'm worried that we're not going to get the dynamic of like Reed and Victor, like in a movie. I'm just worried that we're just going to like, I don't know, like he's going to be like the Thanos, but there's not going to be really a connection in. So when the Fantastic Four show up, it's like they're going to feel almost not as important as Doom and Namor. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
That could be. I mean, that could very well be, and maybe maybe you got to find a different antagonist that's not the Surfer, not Namor, not, you know, you could probably do Galactus again, but then you have to do Galactus without the Surfer. I don't know.
I think Galactus you got to build up to, right? Like you can build up to Galactus. You could have a whole movie. You could do a Thor movie where he's fighting Terrax. You could do a Spider-Man movie where he's fighting Fire-Lord, and just seed these things in and then get the idea that they're heralds preparing the way for something. And I think Galactus needs to be done like knowing that it's coming. It's a looming threat like Thanos was, right? Annihilus, I think, would be a great villain if they don't want to do a Doom or a Namor in a first Fantastic Four movie for Marvel Studios. I think Annihilus would be great because it opens up a lot of possibilities with the Negative Zone and with the Annihilation Wave too. So
yeah, what Brandon said was funny, playing off my buffet statement. I think one thing though, I think is really, really going to be important, and I don't think they put enough thought into it, because you got 4 characters you got to focus on. The casting is going to be critical because let's look at what worked. Okay, as you say, Iron Man. Well, a lot of that success is due to the casting, right?
Yes.
Captain America, same thing. Okay, obviously Chris Evans was an excellent choice for that. So who plays the role becomes very, very important. And I well, again, excluding Corman, I think they missed the mark.
Yeah.
Again, so it's not that they picked. I don't know how to put this. I mean, it's so out of the last one, it seems like whoever plays Human Torch, the actor, they make out great. Like, so Michael B. Jordan made out great from that.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's like the opposite of the kiss of death, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, yeah, let me play the Torch. My career will soar. I'll never play the Human Torch again, but my career will take off. Obviously Chris Evans, and then Reed, Sue, whoever, and the Thing. It's like, what have they done lately? Okay.
Yeah.
The commish plays the,
I understand why they thought that would work, but yeah. It didn't work, did it? Not in the long run. And Jessica Alba, Jessica Alba, she was just one of the hot actresses of the time. Yep. And what's this dude's name? Ewan Grofu? I can't even remember that. I can never pronounce it.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Where's he? What's he? He was in King Arthur. I remember that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
He was in King Arthur. He was in a couple of period pieces, I thought, and he was good. And that's where he's at.
Miles Teller is big right now, especially because
that is true. Miles Teller has done real well. That's true
because of Maverick in particular, right? Because he's in that one. Right. I heard. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, he keeps working. But I just. You've got to cast the right people in the roles. That guy, we don't remember his name. I think he's a period piece actor, and he has a British accent.
Yeah.
So his American accent was always a little bit, you could hear it sort of. It was kind of tingy. Jessica Alba, again, I
don't do the stupid bit where he makes the Fantastic Four car, the Fantastic car, and he's like, Dodge. Yep. Does it got a Hemi? It's got a Hemi. I hate it when they do stuff.
That was just like, are you serious, guys? Come on. Okay. That was almost as big a mistake as they made in Thor: Love and Thunder. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I did not like that movie at all. So, there's a point where you cross over into being too tongue in cheek, and it kills it. And I think that's what they were trying to do. And again, in the second one, the whole wedding thing, it just way too long, way too much time.
We just need everybody to realize that it's the sense of wonder and spectacle and adventure and the family cohesiveness throughout it. Right? It's not about, and I get so tired of hearing people every time almost there's a new writer coming on Fantastic Four or they're doing a new movie. You always hear somebody goes, oh yeah, it's like the Nutty Professor, and like, no, it's not goofy. Like, it's supposed to be science fiction, and the family is core, and but not in a melodramatic way. Like, not like don't pull a writer from the OC or something. I don't know.
Let me ask you a question. If this would work, bring Franklin Richards back into the picture. Maybe a story that has him in it could work. You know what I'm saying?
Franklin?
Yeah, the son, wasn't it Franklin?
Yeah. I think there's potential there, but I think they
want to humanize it. I think that's not a bad route, But doing Say Yes to the Dress is not, you know, oh, they're just like everybody else. Look, they're getting married and Reed's not paying attention. Like, dude, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would love to see Franklin in a Fantastic Four movie eventually, but I would really like to see a couple without him first, right? But at the same time, what do? Do you tell a movie over the course of like, does this one movie take a place over just a couple weeks or a couple of years? So you can kind of play with things, and then you can have Franklin in the next movie or something. And then that would be great to build that up. You could even pull some of the stuff that Hickman did where the grown-up Franklin comes from the future or something like that. So
see, I agree with you, but the problem is that because the franchise is on such shaky ground, you need to score right off the first movie. And I think that bringing the Franklin character back into it in the first movie gives you, so you can achieve what they fail to achieve every time. They tried to, yeah, they have superpowers, right? You know, a Human Torch, a thing, whatever. You know, that's another thing, okay, that they didn't really play on. Okay, all of a sudden the guy's turned into a big, you know, pile of rocks. You know, what does that do for you? You know, what is the emotional stake in that? I think bringing the Franklin character back, a son who's sick and you know, whatever, that humanizes you, okay? And that accomplishes what they want to accomplish, because that is something beyond their control, okay? That is something that happens, you know, and that can do that humanizing, and there's so much you can do with it. I like your idea, bringing him back, an older one, bringing him back to, you know, from the future and somehow incorporating it that way. Digital, I agree, Lawrence Fishburne, his voiceover was excellent for Silver Surfer.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
He was definitely the right choice.
Absolutely. And Brandon says it'd be nice to go ahead and skip right to Franklin and Valeria, which they could do that. Like if, you know, Fantastic Four is already established, they've been there, they're doing their thing. And that could add to the sense of adventure. It could also add to the potential of having an annoying child actor in the movie. But you never know. So,
well, I would, the character itself, I would bring, you know, as a baby. You know, I wouldn't necessarily have a child actor, you know, as a baby, and obviously you know, that even though they have all these powers and Reed's super smart and, you know, preeminent scientist, and he can't save his kid, you know, that kind of, that's, you want to draw in, you know, quote unquote female audience, okay, or any kind of audience where there's a feeling of you know, that kind of pain or whatever, that'll make them real. You know, that kind of storyline, I think, would add that realness to it along with their powers.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that might work. I don't know. I got to be honest with you. I don't know.
Well, let's just hope that Kevin Feige has watched this show or will watch it. And
I'm sure he watches this every Friday.
Yes, and takes our suggestions to heart. So thank you all so much for joining us. Let us know in the comments what you think can be done to make a good Fantastic Four movie finally. Rex, thank you for joining us. We'll be on The Experience Monday night, and I guess Nick's got a show tonight, right?
Nick has the original art show from 7 to 8 Eastern time this evening. So great original art. So there's some great cover art, original cover art that he'll have available. Robbie and I will be back on The Experience on Monday from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern. And then we'll also be back on Wednesday with our buddy Alec from AR Comics. So thank you, everybody, for watching. I love doing these segments with Robbie. He comes up with some great topics, and it's just really just the only thing missing is us having a couple of beers, but that'd be like way too early to do that.
Yeah, it's a little too early for that, man.
Yeah, exactly.
But it is 5 o'clock somewhere anyway.
It is 5 o'clock somewhere. Maybe we'll have wings next time.
Oh, yeah, let's do it. All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. We'll catch you next time. We're dipping out. Station.